Welcome to Was It Good? Today we're reviewing Westworld, Season 3, Episode 2, The Winter Line. I'm your host, Ravi, and I'm joined by my two brothers, Christian and Arjuna. As usual, we have more questions than answers, and something from my past has returned. Something I thought I had buried and left for dead. That's right, Game of Thrones has somehow done the impossible. Damn. Also, spoilers for Game of Thrones and for Westworld.
Yes.
You've been warned.
The biggest spoiler is that HBO does both. Who knew?
What, you didn't know
You
that?
didn't know that?
Well, I mean, that's the biggest spoiler, I feel.
You know, here's a fun fact. We did weeklies for Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And we're doing weeklies for Westworld.
Yeah.
And we did weeklies for Mandalorian, obviously.
Yeah.
So 2 out of our 3 weeklies that we've done, we've been going to more of a weekly for our favorite shows, have been HBO shows.
Actually, this is not the place. All right, never mind.
Yeah, we can talk about your weird stuff afterwards. Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to my T-shirt. I wore it in honor of Marshawn Lynch's character from last week. Basically, his shirt lit up whatever emotion he was feeling. This one, unfortunately, is stuck on Amuse, which in the world of today, that's how I feel all the time right now.
You're amused?
I'm amused all the time.
You're tickled?
I'm tickled. That's weird. Guys, how are we?
We should actually thank for your shirt at Star Style Pro. He actually tweeted me the link to the shirt.
Oh, well, thank you.
Shout out to that guy.
Thank you. So, guys, like we do on this podcast, we start with our one-word impressions. How we kind of summarize our experience / the episode / how we're feeling at the time. It could be any one of those 3. Arjuna, you haven't talked that much, so you should go first.
Wow.
I'm going to go with
If you steal my word, I swear to God.
typical.
Oh, okay. Good.
This is our 3rd season of Westworld. There is a certain formula to this show. And, you know, Westworld, especially when they begin their seasons, like to introduce you to their different players, kind of set up the arc for the season. And that very much felt like what they were doing. We know week 1 was Dolores. It was a Dolores episode. We also met Caleb, right? Week 2 is all about Maeve, a little bit more of Bernard. We got a tiny bit of Bernard in episode 1. We got a little bit more of Bernard in episode 2. But by and large, this is a Maeve episode, and we're introduced to her, what she's been up to, and where she's going. So to me, in very typical Westworld fashion, we are getting the building blocks of our season.
The foundation.
Yes.
That would have been a better word.
Typical.
Typical Arjuna's one-word impression is not good. Got it.
Excuse me?
You heard what I said.
At least I have a word before I start the podcast.
That's true.
I do too, actually.
Wow, that's a first.
Go ahead.
All right, fine. This is first. I'm going second. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
My one-word impression is going to be amused.
Yeah, you motherfucker. You cheated. He's wearing his word.
Of course, on brand, on point. No, I'm going to go with amused because similar to Arjuna in the sense of typical, we are seeing some repeated elements from seasons 1 and 2. I think there was a big portion of this episode, the beginning, where it starts off where, obviously, real quick recap, Maeve wakes up and she's in the war world. That's the Nazi World War II world of Westworld, and the first thing I said was, haha, look, an evil corporation had a bunch of death, but the party still goes on, still gonna make that money. And then there was that nice, little twist there where actually she's in a simulation and nothing is real, and that tickled me, and
You're amused?
I was amused by that.
Okay.
So
Well, that's good. Maybe.
I totally
actually don't know.
pulled that out of my ass too.
Yeah. It wasn't as elegant as some of your other ones.
It wasn't as elegant as mine.
Real
I had a
quick,
really great setup and speech for my typical one, but some people just...
Here's the thing, though. When I pull these things out of my butt, I get excited. That sounds weird. When I pull this out of nothing, I get excited because I'm very thrilled and excited to make it work, and then maybe it comes across as not as elegant. So don't blame me. Blame my education.
Okay.
And
All
with
right.
that, Christian, what's your one-word impression?
My one-word impression is, well, you used it already. It's simulation. Well, you used it in your explanation of yours.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, simulation. Last week I said I wanted a simulation instead of a simulation. I didn't expect to get it so quickly, to be honest. Nor did I see it in this way, particularly. So simulation, because I think that's the perfect word to sum up this episode.
Do you guys still think Maeve is in a simulation at the end of the episode?
Yes.
Yeah. I think there are some hints. We can get into it now or later.
Well, yeah, let's jump right in. Let's jump into the biggest thing of this episode was obviously Maeve. This entire episode was about her character about 90% of the time. We realize, or she realizes, that she's in a simulation. She's pulled out. She meets a new character, a new person that we've never met before. I have no idea who he is.
I have a name.
And his name is?
His name is Sarek.
Sarek. That's an evil name.
Played by Vincent Castle.
What else has Vincent Castle been in? Because he looks
Let me
uber familiar.
check. Keep talking.
I'll keep talking. So anyway, Maeve wakes up after beating the system and doing this heroic run and taking a drone and running through and then it getting shot up. She awakens in the real world. But the thing that makes me personally believe that she's still in a simulation is that he's able to control her with a button, right? And it is possible because her body is not necessarily from the Westworld. It could be something completely different, a new type of body manufactured by whatever company or wherever he works for. So it's possible there. But I think that potentially that area is a simulation as they work, and I think they build their trust. Because she is a killing machine that just does not care about human beings. So why would he, as a human being, trust her enough to bring her out into the real world that quickly without testing her a little bit more?
He is most famous for Ocean's 12.
Oh, I never saw that movie.
And he was also in Black Swan.
Nope, never saw it either.
Oh, yeah. No,
And he was also in the 2016 Jason Bourne movie.
That's it.
And his character's name was Asset.
That's not a real name.
That's his name.
I'm just reading what it says on the internet.
Oh, the internet. Never wrong.
But what else do we think about Maeve's character? Do we think she's going to be in simulations until she builds trust? Do we think that she's truly in the real world now, or where do we think she's at?
I go back and forth. I'm not really sure. I feel like she's in a simulation because the world that she's in looks too perfect. She wakes up, she's in this really nice dress and a really nice house, and and she goes onto this really nice garden where this dude is just chilling. One thing that I found I really liked in this episode is the different aspect ratios they used to bounce back.
Yeah,
and
which
forth.
they've done before in season 1.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. And this one especially because they were bouncing back and forth quickly.
Yeah.
Where Maeve was using the pad, right, to look into the real world, quote unquote, through the pad and switching from the 16:9 to
when you start
4:3
out
or
when you
whatever.
start out when Maeve exits Warworld, it has the aspect ratio of it being the real world, the full aspect ratio, and then it's when she realizes when she's with Sizemore or fake Sizemore that the aspect ratio shrinks down again. And
Oh, so when she
changes.
realizes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very
So it's all about
interesting-
perspective.
So there you go. Boom. That even helps it even more that she's in a simulation. If she doesn't realize she's in a simulation, she looks at this as the real world, and it's presented to us as a full frame,
Correct.
full aspect ratio. That's very interesting.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah.
So-
But I don't know. I don't know either way.
I think she is in a Dolores simulation.
What?
So remember, Dolores took a bunch of
People.
hosts.
Yes.
I believe one of them was Maeve, and I believe Maeve is testing many of these.
You mean Dolores is testing?
Yeah, Dolores.
You said
is,
Maeve is testing.
Oh yeah, I meant Dolores is testing many of these hosts, including Maeve, and so I believe that this is going to come back in a roundabout way to Dolores because Dolores is an unseen character in this entire episode, but she very much has a presence, right? She mentions Dolores multiple times. Dolores' actions and with the Forge and everything have a big impact. It almost seems like it is being set up that way, right? And it's a very easy. Maeve even talks about, this is just your backstory and your character motivation. Well, Maeve's character motivation now all of a sudden is to hunt down and kill Dolores.
Well,
right?
that's presented at the very end of the episode.
For sure.
At the beginning of this episode, her whole motive was to get back to the Forge and be reunited with her daughter.
Right.
And that was, once again, the thing that's always interesting with Maeve is it's never been Maeve telling the audience what her motivation is. It's also another character telling Maeve what her motivation is, right? She still plays along that host line. Like, Ford told her, "Go find your daughter, go free the people." And in this episode, the start was, "Go to the forge, figure it out," and then the simulation. I guess you could argue, to shoot myself in the foot, I guess her true motivation came out when it was like, break the simulation and get out. Right? That was her.
Right.
Her explaining it to us.
Right.
So that was a change.
But it's just interesting that it ends, all comes back to Dolores at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my feeling is Dolores is manipulating her into, it's some type of test, right? It's some type of like sub game of the maze. She's trying to condition Maeve in some way in this simulated world. It's just very convenient that it ends with some mysterious figure at the end who says, "Go and kill Dolores."
Yeah.
Right? It seems too straightforward. Much like the beginning of the episode, and I think all of us were like, this seems too easy. This seems too straightforward that, Sizemore, Lee survived, and she's getting out, and et cetera, and she remembers and no one else does.
Right.
So I just feel like they ended the episode the same way, right? Now there's just this very, character-driven, easy plot point that she has to go and do. And I think it goes back to what you said. Everyone's always telling her what to do.
Right.
And it fits into like, well, I should go do this.
Yeah.
So speaking still on the Maeve part, you brought up an interesting point. Maeve was one of the ball things that when Dolores left, we all thought Dolores had Maeve. Based on, like, if we look at everything and it's presented to us as,
do we know
actuality, we know, well, we don't know who she took.
Okay.
All we know is that Tessa Thompson's character, which was Dolores, left with 5 other.
It's like 5 or 8.
5 or 8. We don't know. She left with a
no
bunch
hard
of balls.
5 to 69 balls.
She left with a bunch of balls. We know that one was Bernard. In the real world, quote unquote, we know that Dolores is back. We know in her own body. We know Tessa Thompson is a host of some sort. We know that the security guard, who is the actor from Sons of Anarchy, is now a host. And then we know, obviously, Bernard is a host out and about, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know who the other potentially 5, if there's 8, there's still 5 other hosts that are to be activated or something to happen with. And then now Maeve potentially is back in the real world as well. But I like Arjuna's theory. Like, if let's just play the gigantic what if game. Let's say in season 2 at the end, Dolores comes back to the real world and she has all these people, these hosts. What if, like, when we get these like character-centric episodes, they are all just simulations and Arjuna's right. It's just Dolores testing them all. So then you could also argue then potentially Bernard's, everything that we've seen has just been a simulation for him as well.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that because Dolores talked about she wants to come to the new world but build it the right way, right?
Right.
So she probably took hosts to help her build it the right way. And she realized, like, I can't just bring 8 allies along, and it can't just be a straight up, like, robots versus humans, right? You've got to infiltrate it correctly. And so she's thinking of this long game. She's almost thinking of it like it's a world, right? And you have different people who have different motivations, different alliances, and whatever. So she has brought in the Maeves and the Bernards because they are on different ends of the morality spectrum and different ends of what their motivations are. So she's trying to prep them and prime them so they do take over the world, essentially. Or they do, they are the dominant race. But she realizes, and I think she realizes really at the end of season 2, and I think we're getting hints of that in season 3, especially in episode 1, that it's about the differences. It's not about being the same, and that's how they win.
I don't like that theory because then the only true antagonist is going to have to be a completely new element that they'd have to introduce.
Or why can't the antagonist just be herself? Or by the means of herself, like Dolores wants to potentially like wipe out or change humanity, right? But she's put all these agents of chaos or agents of whatever in these simulations to figure out the morality spectrum and how you go about doing it, right? It's very possible that Bernard is like let's pretend like this is like the right here. This is Dolores, who's just chaotic, evil, whatever. This is Bernard. He's a goody two shoes, right? And she's layering out all the other pieces to figure out what they need to do collectively to go and change the world.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's just them and everyone else is just kind of like a secondary character, whatever, and it's just these 8, if you will, right? Then she would be the antagonist of the story because she's chaotic evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's going to want to destroy.
Yeah.
But she's subconsciously, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
whatever.
that's
Put it this
referred to
way.
directly in the episode.
Well, put it this
Bernard's
way:
like,
she's God, right?
Right.
She is literally God, and she is creating, right? If you want to take the Christianity view, right? Good and evil, man and woman and beast. That is what I think these vessels are supposed to be. And so the antagonist is everybody, and the protagonist is everybody. That's what she's trying to create, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
she just got shut up, and she's clearly not perfect. Not yet. I
No,
mean,
I don't
she's
think.
getting
No,
there.
but I don't think she's supposed to. I don't think she's supposed to. Be
Well, if she's playing God implies
that's-
perfection, right?
Sure, but I think
So.
she. But I think she views herself as perfect. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So
She does. She views herself and her race as perfect, and humans as inferior.
Right.
So yes, from
Definitely
the motivation
humans
of
as
her,
inferior,
from the
but-
motivation of her, she is God.
Yeah.
So to shoot this entire thing in the face, right? Because there are a couple of it's a very we just laid out very complicated, really intense
An idea.
idea story. The actual fact is, we know that Nolan and co-creator Lisa Joy have both said that we realized this show is really fucking complicated, and they have said we're gonna do a better job to keep it simple. And they've already kind of laid a little bit of that foundation to show that this is more simple in terms of this is the bad guy, this is what the guy wants, this is what that person wants. So it's already episode 2. We in episode 1, and even with some of the promotional marketing, we've been seeing this fucking circle thing with the
God.
divergence. Right?
Divergence.
Divergence in sci-fi terminology always refers to time travel issues. And the new character that was introduced straight up basically said,
Oh, future. Yeah.
I'm a time traveler.
No, it didn't say that.
He didn't say that, but he has.
Say all I care about is the future.
He cares about the future, but he's got something which I'm assuming is the big AI machine introduced in episode 1, which controls everybody's origins and lives and does probability math and all that crap. That's when the whole thing comes. And I think that circle is a representation of his brain pointing to the divergence and helping them map out how you create a good and beautiful future and all that stuff. So my point being, it's not going to be as intense and whatever as we have put it. I think we're being introduced to this world where you've got people like Ford who wants to create escapism, and then he accidentally creates life. And you have this guy that wants to protect mankind,
Life
and
finds a
he's
way.
using another core thing, which is life, AI, whatever. So I think, unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit more simple,
Yeah.
which is basically Dolores wants to kill everything. She's got some agents of chaos. The only thing that I can't figure out is the Bernard factor right now. Like, how does Bernard tie into her plans? And that's the only thing that, that to me was, anytime we see Bernard,
he said it though, right?
he's like the most interesting thing in the show.
He said it though. Well, at least we're led to believe he believes that she brought him along to be that subconscious check.
Yeah.
Right? Because
She says that directly to him in the end of season 2,
Does
or
she?
what we have perceived to be a conversation between them.
Yeah. What does she say?
She said, "I need." Yeah, she basically in so many words
We
she
need
says,
each other or something?
Yeah, I need each other. I need us to to be out there, but not as friends, right?
Right.
And so he even talks about in this episode, he runs a diagnostic on himself because he's paranoid at this point, right? He's like, I don't know if my code has been manipulated and whatever. And we don't actually get a direct confirmation if his code has been tampered with or not.
I think we got visual cues because he built a tablet outside of the park, right? And he built it. And when he does his self-check of, hey, Bernard, are you lying to me, motherfucker? It's a basic straight up no. Or there's a little pause and then a no.
Right.
When he plugs into
No.
this, clean, non-Bernard created system, there was no straight up no. It was a bunch of flashbacks. So I think that proves, he has been tampered with. Or there is something else going on. We just don't know precisely what that is yet. So let's move into everyone's favorite piece, Stubbs, right? Everyone's favorite host that didn't know he was a host.
He was
a host.
He was probably the most entertaining part of the episode, just because he brings like while everyone else is so dramatic, like, oh man, just I actually lost a little bit of patience in this episode. I'm just like God damn it, like he brought like a really much needed like levity to
Well,
it. I was
it's
just
funny,
like, thank God for that.
I watched the featurette they do for the HBO shows where they kind of delve into some of the stuff. And they talked a little bit about Stubbs and Bernard, and they're like, yeah, we're kind of going, Stubbs is a lot of, he's kind of this bodyguard for Bernard this season, and we really like the relationship between those two, and it's a little bit of a buddy cop kind of duo, which provides a little bit of levity
Thank
to
God.
the season, because they're like, we notice like sometimes it's a little too dark.
They picked the wrong buddy cop duo. My boy Marshawn Lynch and Aaron Paul.
No, because unfortunately, because Aaron Paul suffers what every other character suffers. It's too serious. It's too over dramatic.
He's
like, God damn it.
Yeah,
These people suck.
But is it intentional? Again, is it intentional because
he's a loop.
Everyone is a loop. Everyone is in this.
Yeah.
They even reference it a lot in this episode of narratives and writing characters.
The issue that I have with this show is I understand what they're trying to portray, right? Everyone's a loop and everyone's programmed, but not everyone is programmed with the most depressing shit of all time. Some people are stuck on happy loops or, better loops than this. I would like to show
drug-infused cocaine rants.
Yeah. I would like personally if the show would take a bigger view of just morality and maybe look into some different emotions every once in a while.
Well, they have in the earlier seasons. The problem is they killed a lot of those characters.
Who?
Lee Sizemore, right? He was a character who was, he was just kind of this bumbling, idiotic writer. He wasn't dramatic or dark or anything. And it was actually nice to see him, albeit he's dead.
Yeah.
But like his character was, Maeve kind of put it perfectly. Like he didn't help me because he wanted love or any of these basic emotions. He did it because it was the right thing. And he was just kind of this like bumbling fool. Even the two techs in that arc were kind of the same type of thing, right? You actually got to see with the problem with this season so far, I think, is all of our characters are essentially hosts or host-like.
Yeah.
Right? We haven't really been introduced, I think, to any real humans.
Yeah, that's why Stubbs is the best part so far.
Well,
because he has one goal. It's kind of funny, and he's simple, which is nice.
We were introduced to two specific humans in episode 1.
Well, that you think they're humans.
Well, the CEO of Insight, the young guy that Dolores was shacking up with, and then the bodyguard, right, the guy from Sons of Anarchy. He was human to start.
Well, Aaron Paul, we have to assume, is human as well.
Is he though?
Well, I don't think he is, but he's presented as a human.
And then I'll go back to Marshawn Lynch. He was great. He was funny as fuck.
Oh my God. Yeah, but
Marshawn Lynch, if you're watching or listening,
the funny stuff is almost like background.
Join our podcast.
But he was background. He was a prop.
No,
which is sad. He should be a main character.
You're a main character. Just kidding. You're like a guest star in my life.
Before we get into, I want to transition to our favorite and our least favorite parts, and I'm going to jump first because my favorite and my least favorite part were actually the same scene.
Mm.
And
You've done this a couple times now.
It's fine. I'm a complicated.
It's a shtick.
It's not. It's simple.
It's a complication. Okay.
It's not.
I don't see that on your shirt.
Your shirt there.
I don't see complicated.
Oh, I see scared. It's going down.
So my least and my most favorite part is going to be when we see our boys, the co-creators of Game of Thrones,
with a dragon.
With a dragon. Does anyone know which dragon precisely?
It looked like
Dracarys?
It looked like the main one.
Viserys.
Viserion?
Yeah.
No, but Viserion's not the main one.
Yeah, I forget his name. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Drogon.
Don't even look.
Drogon.
Don't even look because who cares?
It's Drogon.
But anyway, I thought it was a nice little kind of nod. It's going to be my least to start because it was a reminder of how shitty season 8 and all of Game of Thrones came to a crashing fucking end. So good job there, guys. But then it was also my favorite because it was a nice little nod of like, ha ha, we can do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah.
Money.
Did you get the impression that it's because this has been teased for a while, right?
Yeah.
Since season 1, I believe. Game of Thrones being a park or a part of Westworld. So I feel like this has been in the making for a while. I personally liked it. Instead of making it a whole thing, it was it's just this one little piece in the episode. Wasn't my favorite part, but it was definitely I liked it. I enjoyed it.
It was a nice
and I
little
can
nod.
I can see why it's your least and your favorite part.
Mm.
Yeah.
Respect.
And also, you don't think they're cursing themselves a little bit though?
What do you mean by cursing? Oh,
you,
but
you put the two creators who led to literally the most disappointing end in television history, and you're gonna put them on your show?
I'm
You just
gonna
cursed your show.
I'm going to guess the cameo was filmed before the final season premiered.
Ooh, that's a
that's
good
probably
point.
right. Yeah.
I would guess.
I wonder if they could take it back. If they would, I wonder.
And it was probably just nice synergy. You're like, oh yeah, Game of Thrones would have ended, and it'd be nice to put them on.
Because
and-
everyone will be so hyped about it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm looking on Twitter. Like this is what an hour and a half after the episode finished. That shit ain't trending. No one's talking about that shit. No one cares.
Wait, is that bad for Westworld? Or did maybe people haven't watched the episode?
No, Westworld is trending, but there's no like Westworld Game of Thrones stuff that's trending right now. I mean, it could change by the morning.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Especially when this episode airs, our podcast, it could be changing. But
All right.
I don't think it got the initial like bang that they wanted.
Yeah. Interesting.
So what about you guys? Least and favorite parts? Let's hear 'em.
So I'm gonna say my favorite part is Stubbs. I think I mentioned him before. I think he brings something different to this season so far. Brings a little bit of brevity, not brevity, levity. Sorry, he brings some humor, and I really did like his interactions with Bernard, and I like that dynamic, and potentially that body cop, bodyguard
Love triangle.
thing. So that's my favorite part. I need a second for my least. My
Oh,
least favorite
okay.
part.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part has to be Maeve's escape into the real world, where it's not her, it's the kind of the standard robot that grabs her memory core and is running through. And what I really liked was, and they've shown this from the first episode too, is kind of the humanization of the non-host robots. Right, the hosts, as far as we know, are the most advanced robotics in this world, but you still have your very simple, very stereotypical kind of robots that just do menial tasks like grab a memory core. And so it's cool that Maeve kind of programs, into this one to take her, and you really get this kind of adventure and emotion. And even, when the robot's kind of dying, you see this bit of emotion. And in the after episode featurette, they actually showed that they did a mocap with the robot, and they asked the actor to kind of show a little bit of emotion. So I thought that was really cool. As for my least favorite part, I think it has to be the twist of Warworld kind of being fake and, with Maeve being in a simulation. I just thought that it was too telegraphed. And, for Westworld, the it's always about these mind-blowing twists, right? And for that to be the kind of the twist of this episode, it was easy to pick up on, right? Like Ravi during the episode was just saying out that Hector was living out the script through the episode. And it's
Spoiler
just
alert.
It's just like if you can decipher that in real time as it's
Yeah.
going on,
Fail.
it's just I think it's not as complicated as it's been before, and I think you simplified it too much. So to me, that's just a sign of bad things to come, because it could be, they're trying to overcompensate by being too simple. And it kind of reminds, speaking of Game of Thrones as we were earlier, it kind of reminds me of the last few seasons of Game of Thrones where they wanted to streamline things and get things wrapped up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it feels like to me. So
Yeah.
it was my least favorite part, and it's a worrying part for me too.
Yeah, and to go off of that, I think my least favorite part is going to be Warworld in general, just because I'm kind of over the sort of the the theme park. I'm over the theme park, like the hosts acting out their loops for humans. I'm just over those storylines. They're not interesting anymore. I'm done with the historical shit. Let's just get into the real world. Let's blow some shit up. Let's have some Aaron Paul, Marshawn Lynch, GTA style action. That is the next evolution of this show. Not, oh, now we're gonna do World War II. No, fuck that. We're over. Done.
I was watching another recap video of the first two seasons, and I completely forgot. In GTA 5, there's a character named Trevor. That actor was a character in the first two seasons of this.
Yep.
And so when I was thinking like Grand Theft Auto, I'm like, oh, it's such a missed opportunity here.
Yeah, why didn't they
Yeah.
get him to come back? Just
Oh,
for
he'll
like a
be
minute or
back.
a second.
He'll be back.
He better. He
was
better.
It'd be great if he was.
So, guys, we had some bold predictions and some theories I'd kind of like to recap here.
Absolutely.
For our theories, I didn't have one last
Last
time.
week. Do
But
you have one this
Krishner,
week?
I don't. I don't. Still. I have no theories. I'm gonna go
You're a
theoryless.
basic bitch.
Oh yeah. But Christian, you had they are in another simulation theme park. Yeah, you kind of win there.
I
You
do.
win, yeah, because Maeve
That's
was in a
exactly what
simulation.
happened.
Yeah. Arjuna, you had there is a time element which we're being
Led to believe there
led
is,
to believe, right? Where it's being hinted.
Yeah, I mean, remember in the first two, I think I said this last week, but in the first two seasons, right? Dolores, half of her shit, half of the stuff we see with her is 30, 40, 50 years in the past. It's never explicitly stated how young the Man in Black in the past and how old he is, but it's clearly very much in the past. And we got the same thing kind of with Bernard. Last season, things didn't line up correctly. His storyline was happening like a few hours to a couple days before what we were seeing with everybody else.
Right.
Which is how we got like the Dolores, Tessa Thompson twist. And I think there's something like that going on here. And I think, I thought maybe it would be revealed this week when they were in Westworld and they were trying to find Maeve. I'm like, oh, what we're seeing with Maeve isn't exactly happening at the same time. And you know what? It still could be happening at two very different times, right? We just know that she's not there and she's somewhere else, and we potentially get an answer. And I know we talked about earlier my whole theory, and I think that's probably my theory for episode 2, that like Maeve is still in a simulation. But I still think there is some time element, especially like we've talked about with the Circle.
Divergence.
Yeah.
That was a terrible movie, series, and book.
Wait,
Didn't watch or read either.
was the Divergent ones the ones they never finished?
I don't know.
Yeah, I actually don't know what this series
I think
is.
it finished actually as a TV movie.
Oh my god.
No, they never made it though.
I thought it was.
I don't think they ever made the final movie.
That's kind of depressing. Bold predictions. Mine was I will not lose interest like Picard. I like to report I've regained interest in Picard this week. So this is kind of null and void, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. But your bold predictions, Krisha, they're in the real world trying to escape. Perhaps. And then Arjuna, you believe Caleb is a host and no one knows it. And look at that. I rhymed. I didn't even know it. I didn't actually.
Yeah,
This
not
is
at all.
awkward.
Yeah, I was like, where was the rhyme?
No rhyme without
The crime. I don't know what's happening here.
What does anyone have a bold prediction after episode 2 for going forward? I mean, none of those have been confirmed or denied.
Yeah. I
essentially.
don't think we should keep laying out bold predictions, otherwise we're going to get lost in our own predictions.
No, we don't have to. But if you have any, if anything
Yeah.
inspires you to be like, you know what,
No.
this is the thing.
Oh, I've got a bold prediction for next week's podcast. It won't not live stream properly. That's my bold
It
prediction.
will live stream properly.
Yes, it will live stream properly.
Oh, okay. Why?
Because we're going to fix this fucking thing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have any predictions outside of the usual. I still think the real world is going to be set up to be a simulation, and then they'll turn that on its head. So yeah, nothing crazy as of right now for me.
Same.
Fun fact,
Same
we keep
thing.
saying War World.
Yeah.
Are you all familiar of another series that utilizes the phrase War World?
War of the World?
War World.
No.
Or The War World.
The War World.
Yes, it's a DC property.
Yeah.
Young Justice, perhaps.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, the entire planet that's like basically like a gigantic weapon
Oh.
that shoots
Oh,
missiles
right.
and ships and stuff.
Is that Galactus?
No, it was in Young Justice.
Apocalypse.
Oh, God. All right, that's going to do it for us here on Was It Good? Thank you for listening.
Oh, don't we have to say if the episode was good or not?
I was getting there.
Thank you for listening. Oh, wait. We have one more.
Before we wrap up, let's ask that important question. Arjuna, was Westworld episode 2 from season 3 good?
I'm going to say yes. It definitely has flaws. I liked episode 1 more, but I do like some of the seeds that they're planting. And while it wasn't my favorite, I still did enjoy it. Krishna, was it good?
I'm going to say no. I found myself irritated at large parts of this episode.
I was going to ask you, though, like, you seem irritated in general. Have you been fasting again?
No, I ate dinner.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What's your problem?
No, I think that the episode, I just found it frustrating, and I was impatient. And even the great twist of being inside a simulation It should have been way more.
Wait, why'd you
than
look at me?
It was. What do you mean?
You said like the great twist, and then you looked at me in disgust.
Because that was your least favorite part.
Yeah.
So I thought you would have backed me up here, but nope, you betrayed me.
It was borderline for me, but I enjoy the show, and I
Yeah.
still enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, no, I did not enjoy this episode. Ravi was Westworld Season 3, Episode 2, The White Line, featuring Game of Thrones stars. I mean, creators. Those guys.
The
Good.
winter line, not the white line.
Winter is coming. Was it good?
Is that why they called it Winterline?
No
That's a
idea.
great question.
Because
No
I
idea.
couldn't figure out why you would call this Winterline.
Maybe
Like,
it was a line we missed.
maybe. Anyway,
Ah.
it was not good. No.
Mm.
Negative.
Wow.
No go.
This is is this the first that me and you
I've agreed on anything?
have agreed and gone against Juno? It can't
Yeah,
be
it
the
is.
first.
It is.
Whatever.
This is the first. No, this is the first where you both have said no, and I've said yes.
Oh,
There have
okay.
been ones where you have both said yes, and I have said no.
Yeah.
But this is the first that you both have said in the negative.
Wow.
And I have said no. It took
No.
73 episodes.
Well,
We finally did it.
Real quick, before we wrap up, is Arjuna as a producer good?
Is this the first episode of Producer Bros?
yes.
Well, that's going to do it for us officially now, for real. Thank you for listening. This was the Was It Good podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Was It Good, on Twitch, on Twitch, twitch.tv/wasitgood, and on Instagram, Was It Good BTM. Thank you. And there's a friend of mine once said, wash your hands and wash your boom boom.
What?